Now let's talk about parasites and life force. And I don't like to force my spiritual beliefs on y'all, but it was my spiritual beliefs that revealed to me why the vast majority of Americans are struggling with autoimmune disorders. So I'm casually talking to my homegirl one day, and she tells me that her hemoglobin was like 8. And I was like, wow, you know, in the hospital, we actually transfuse people at 6. So how could your hemoglobin be casually at a deadly level? She was like, I don't know, that's just what it was. I was like, well, what did the doctor do? She said, he put me on iron supplements. I was like, but why was your hemoglobin that low to begin with? And she was like, I'm not sure. I'm like, that doesn't add up, because America, we're some of the biggest meat eaters in the world. Statistically, like, we eat more meat than anybody. How is it possible that the vast majority of women in America are struggling with iron deficiency anemia and we eat unusual proportions of meat? What that tells me is that something is going on that is not allowing us to absorb the iron, right? Now, another thing that I know is that, okay, this is the part where the spiritual aspect kind of tipped me off. You know, we talked about the STDs and parasites, and I dropped in there real quickly that I think possibly what we believe to be demons could also be, because, you know, I believe in entities, I believe in the spiritual realm. I said it could be bacteria and parasites, because they live at a different level and different dimension than us, but they act on us. Because in the hospital, when a person gets a certain bacteria or a certain infection, it changes their behavior. We know that. We've seen old people get superhuman strength from having urinary tract infections. And there's like a laundry list of infections we could name. We've seen them do fecal transplants and induce signs of schizophrenia in lab rats. We've seen them use fecal transplants to heal people. So we know the gut-brain connection. We know serotonin is produced in the gut. Many neurotransmitters and many hormones are produced in the gut. So the creatures, right? And like I said, if you watch bacteria under a microscope, they have their own community. They have their own government. They kill bacteria that don't carry the workload. Like, they have their own system. So these are living beings, living forces. And if you ever look at parasites under a microscope, they're ugly. They are hideous. They look demonic. They are so ugly. They always have these gnarly teeth and these angry looking eyes. Like, y'all, they ugly, okay? They look like Predator. Y'all remember the movie Predator? That's what most parasites look like under a microscope. A lot of them also are worms, okay? Most people have worms at baseline. Don't know it, don't talk about it. The thing that's different about America is that most people of color, most countries of color, eat diets that naturally include many anti-parasitic foods, naturally. On the flip side, in America, we eat a diet that is pro-parasite, heavy with the sugar, lots of meat, raw meat at that sometimes even. All those things feed the bad bacteria in your gut, and they help create a conducive and comfortable, cozy environment for parasites to sit and thrive. Most other countries do regular deworming of the whole family, in addition to the food they eat. America, they say, oh, we're America. We don't need it. We don't have worms. We're not like those other countries, okay? Here's the rabbit hole I went down spiritually to kind of put 2 and 2 together on what's going on. I was trying to find some proof of bacteria being a dimension, right? A particular dimension. I did find an author who says many people have agreed with that theory. The bacteria are, you know, you got the 3rd dimension, which is, and then you got 4th dimension, which I've always believed to be time, as a structure that you can see from the 5th dimension. That would explain time travel, timeline hopping, quantum leaps. That would explain premonitions, the whole 9 yards. But the 2nd dimension was always questionable. What really is the 2nd dimension? It's theorized that could be what the bacteria is. Okay, that's why they can act on us and control us. That's why you can get a parasite or a virus and it changes your behavior. It controls you. It can make you angry. It can make you irritable. One of the number 1 signs of parasites in kids is what? They get irritable. They start having mood swings. Okay, they start misbehaving. They not acting like they self. So we know parasites almost always change host behavior. We learned that in microbiology in 101. Parasites change host behavior. So I'm sitting here thinking, another thing I read in the book was this book believed that the 1st dimension has a lot to do with iron. This is when it starts, the bells start signing off. They believe the 1st dimension has something to do with some type of big iron core or iron something. And it talks about the importance of blood. And I immediately thought, okay, in the Bible, when we take sacrament, it's blood of my Lord and Savior, body of my Lord and Savior. And it talks about how blood has a lot of spiritual significance. It says that wars are waged really for the blood, because it's a blood sacrifice. And a lot of things have to do with blood sacrifice. And I thought about it. I remember somebody one time trying to do a love spell on somebody. She told me about it. That's what she used, was blood. I thought about the fact that women are so divine and so spiritually connected and so spiritually evolved. And we bleed for 7 days a month. Okay? So I'm sitting here like, okay, they believe the first dimension has something to do with the iron core. They talk about the spiritual significance of blood. And is it a coincidence that malaria, for example, is a blood parasite that runs rampant in a lot of places in Africa? I've always been a conspiracy theorist in that I don't believe that they can't cure malaria. I don't believe that they can't eradicate malaria. What I do know is financially, even in a small country like Ghana is a blimp on a map in Africa, right? If they eradicated malaria, $32 billion would flow into Ghana over the next 10 years. 32 billion. Okay? And one of my favorite quotes, hang with me, it's gonna tie back all together. One of my favorite quotes is, never take by force what you can take with deception. Now, you don't need boots on the ground stealing oil, stealing gold, stealing diamonds if you can wage biological warfare. Now, they have research for ways to eradicate malaria. They have, quote unquote, solutions for it. They're being held by who? Guess who? I'm not gonna say it on here. The Gill and Trakenda Bates Foundation. Them. And for the record, almost every research hall I went down that had to do with disease, immunity, medication, their name was on it. Okay? Their name was on it. They found it. They pretty much own biological warfare. Okay? So, I believe that they have now you wage war on a group of people, they blood. Now you look at us and how the vast majority of Americans have some form of autoimmune disorder, whether that be Sjogren's, diabetes, whether that be iron deficiency, thyroid issues. There's a laundry list of autoimmune disorders. The vast majority of us have. It's increasing annually, 5%. The number of autoimmune disorders is increasing annually, meaning we're increasingly stressed and we have an increasingly poor diet that for some reason facilitates autoimmune disorders. What is it in our diet facilitating autoimmune disorders? Okay, now, you know, other countries incorporate Chi, which is life force, prana, if I'm saying that right. Life force, vital energy, has to do with what? Your blood. So, if there's an attack on our blood, and you go to the doctor and your hemoglobin is 6 and your doctor gives you iron, but he never addresses what caused your iron to be low, there's no point in, you know, you're supposed to be out giving award-winning speeches, but you sitting in the office crunching ice all night. You're supposed to be out working million-dollar ideas, but you're tired and you're asleep because your hemoglobin is 6. And you are in one of the richest countries and one of the most developed countries in the world that will not even address basic root cause illnesses. They say, here's the medication, here's some iron, go. And they never address what's actually causing your iron to be low. Because if you can attack someone's blood, then you can attack their destiny, their life force, their fate. You can make sure they never reach their potential. You can make sure they never wake up and get off the Kool-Aid. If you've ever seen the studies that they did with lab rats, by the way they change their behavior by what they feed them, they become completely helpless. They stop fighting, they stop trying, they just lay down. All their instincts just go like that based on what they feed them. Y'all don't see that here? So I did the research. Saw the clinical trials where they used rifampin versus a herb to treat SIBO. A herb beat out an antibiotic in clinical trials to treat SIBO. I went and looked. I said, how did the herb beat rifampin? Guess what? Coincidentally, all the herbs that were used as an antimicrobial were also anti-parasitic agents. They will not call them parasitic agents in the clinical trials, though. I don't know why. So people thought they were being treated only for their bacteria, and they were having their parasites treated instead. Once again, in the research study, the herbal concoction is presented as an antimicrobial to balance the good and bad gut bacteria, because bacteria in the gut can block nutrient absorption. But you know what else can block nutrient absorption? Parasites. And parasites are one of the leading causes of iron deficiency anemia. And the treatment is simple. Take anti-parasitic herbs or anti-parasitic medication. You can take it pharmaceutically or you can take it naturally. They're both just as effective. So why aren't we doing that? Why is that not being talked about? Why is half America walking around here sick with autoimmune disorders and a gut full of parasites, and we have all the resources in the world, but it's not being treated? Why? Why are you taking iron and feeding the parasite in your gut more iron instead of getting rid of the parasite? And you know, I put this in my ebook, and then I took it out because I felt like it was too much. I said, this is gonna overwhelm people. I'm saying too much, and I omitted it. But y'all, I have put it back in there because people need to know what they need to know. And you need to know why the supplements work. From all the things that heal us naturally. We're living an unnatural life. We have an unnatural amount of stress, anxiety, mental illness, because we have been removed from our natural element. You can't take a fish out the water and stick it in a tree and then be like, oh my God, why is it not? It's not supposed to be in a tree. Put it back in the water. You think, oh, I got a good life, I got a car, I got a nice house. Why am I sad? Because you have been removed from your environment. You can give a fish 10 pounds of gold, and it means nothing if you have removed the fish from water. Oh, and one more thing. A breakdown of all of this is in my ebook. And yes, I'm selling ebooks. Don't be coming on here talking about, oh, all the influencers want to sell something. You dang right, because I done put blood, sweat, and tears in. 10 years of research pieced together in 30 pages. So you dang right, I'm selling the ebook. It's for sale. It's in my bio. Please go and download it in case these videos get removed. If anything ever happens to me because I talk too much and I tell too much, there'll be many coming. I got one up now focusing on women's health, but it does talk about all these subjects. So go ahead and grab that today.